Welcome to Dear Fans. They say kindness costs nothing, but for LaToya Harris, it cost her everything, or so she thought. On a quiet night in Indianapolis, Indiana, a single mother broke the rules to serve a late customer wearing a hoodie. She didn't know it was Caitlin Clark. She didn't know she was being watched. She didn't know that getting fired the next morning would be the best thing that ever happened to her. Sometimes the biggest dreams come true when you're not looking for them. Sometimes getting fired isn't the end of your story, it's just the beginning. This is what happened when one waitress chose kindness over rules, and how that choice changed not just her life, but an entire community. LaToya Harris's feet ached as she refilled the salt shakers at Millie's Diner. Her shift had stretched past 10 hours, and her body begged for rest, but she couldn't slow down, not when her son Jaden was counting on her. "Mom, can I please go to basketball camp this summer?" Jaden had asked that morning, his dark eyes bright with hope. "Coach says I've got a real shot at point guard." The memory of her 10-year-old son's eager face gave LaToya the strength to keep going. Basketball camp cost $400, which meant extra shifts, but seeing Jaden's joy when he talked about hoops made it all worth it. The bell above the door jingled, pulling LaToya from her thoughts. She turned to tell the customer they were closing soon, but the word stuck in her throat. A tall figure in a hoodie and jeans stood in the doorway, head slightly bowed to step inside. Even slouched, they had to be over 6 feet tall. Her manager, Dar Aaron, had strict rules about serving after 10:30 p.m. Kitchen shuts down early. He always said no exceptions, but something about the stranger's weary posture made LaToya pause. They looked like they'd had a rough day too. "Come on in," as she called out, grabbing a menu from the counter. "Just try to order quick if you can. The kitchen's about to close." The stranger smiled, a flicker of gratitude in their eyes. "Thanks," they said in a low, steady voice. "I just need a quiet spot to eat and unwind." LaToya LED them to a booth in the corner away from the windows. She noticed how they kept their head down, as if avoiding attention. Probably some athlete, she thought. Indianapolis saw plenty of tall folks passing through, especially during basketball season. "What can I get you?" she asked, pulling out her notepad. "Coffee black," they said, "and whatever you recommend for a late dinner." "A burger and fries are a hit," LaToya replied. "My son swears they're the best in Indy, though he might be biased since I sneak him extras." The stranger chuckled, a warm sound that felt oddly familiar. "Sounds perfect. You've got kids?" "Just one, Jaden. He's 10. And already dreaming of the NBA." LaToya said with a proud smile. "He's obsessed with basketball, wants to run the court like a pro someday. Good dreams to have." The stranger said, their hoodie shifting slightly as they nodded. LaToya caught a glimpse of their face in the dim light and felt a jolt of recognition, but she kept her cool, pretending not to notice. "I'll get that order in," she said smoothly, heading to the kitchen. Through the serving window, she saw Tony, the cook, prepping to shut down. "Last order of the night, Tony's special customer." Tony grumbled, but flipped the grill back on. In all her years at the diner, he'd never refused a request. She vouched for while the food cooked. LaToya wiped down tables and counted her tips. $72 tonight, not counting the latecomer that would go straight into Jaden's camp fund along with her earnings from her weekend gig at the coffee shop downtown. The strangers sat quietly, staring out at the empty street, sipping their coffee. Despite their height, they had a calm presence that put LaToya at ease. When the food was ready, she brought it over with extra napkins and ketchup. "Here you go, best burger in Indy, hot off the grill." "Thanks." They paused, glancing at her name tag. "LaToya, you didn't have to serve me this late. I know it's past closing." She shrugged. "Everyone deserves a good meal and a break, no matter the hour. My grandma taught me that." They nodded thoughtfully. "Your grandma taught you well, and your son's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," LaToya said sincerely. "Jaden keeps me going on nights like this. Speaking of which, I'd better finish closing up." As she worked, she glanced at the security camera in the corner. Darren checked the tapes every morning, but maybe he'd miss the Tim stamp. Even if he didn't, she couldn't regret helping someone who needed it. The stranger ate quietly, occasionally making satisfied hums that made LaToya smile. When they finished, they waved her over. "Your son was right, best burger I've had in a while." They pulled out their wallet, and LaToya started to give a total, but they were already stacking bills on the table. "Keep the change," they said, standing. "And thank you for the kindness. It means more than you know." LaToya waited until they left before counting the tip. Her eyes widened at the sight for $100 bills, more than enough for Jaden's basketball camp. As she locked up Millie at 11:30 p.m., she felt lighter despite her exhaustion. Sometimes breaking the rules was worth it, especially when it felt right. What she didn't know was that her kindness had been noticed. Tomorrow, that simple choice would change her life forever. Outside, a dark SUV pulled away from the curb, its taillights fading into the night. Inside, Caitlin Clark smiled. Already planned her next move. The next morning came too fast. LaToya's alarm blared at 6:30 a.m., and she groaned, her legs still sore from the late shift, but the memory of the $400 SDI brought a grin to her face. "Jaden, breakfast time, sweetie." She called down the hall of their modest apartment. Her son bounded in, already in his basketball shorts, pretending to dribble. "Mom, guess what coach says I'm fast enough to lead the team." LaToya pulled him into a hug. "That's incredible. And guess what else I think? Basketball camp is happening this summer." After all, Jaden's face lit up for real. "But yesterday you said, let's just say, a generous customer tipped big last night," she said, flipping pancakes in the shape of a hoop. "Sometimes good things sneak up on you." The morning flew by, and soon LaToya was dropping Jaden at school before heading to Millie's for her day shift. She hadn't even stepped inside when Darren's voice stopped her. "My office." Now her manager stood by his desk, arms folded, security footage playing on his laptop, the timestamp read 10:47 p.m. showing LaToya serving the tall stranger. "Want to explain this?" Darren pointed at the screen. "You know the rules. No customers after 10:30. Darren, they just needed a meal. It wasn't hurting anyone. Rules are rules." "LaToya, what if they'd been trouble? Insurance doesn't cover after-hours risks." "But nothing happened. They were just hungry. And it was Caitlin Clark." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Darren snorted. "Right. And I'm Steph Curry. This is your last warning shot. Hand over your apron and name tag. You're firing me for helping someone." Her voice cracked. "I've got a son to feed. Should have thought of that before breaking policy again," Darren said, holding out his hand. LaToya's hands trembled as she unpinned her name tag. 6 years at Millie's gone in a flash. She thought of the camp money now needed for bills. Instead, as she walked to her car, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hello," she answered, her voice shaky. "Is this LaToya Harris?" A crisp professional woman asked. "Yes. Who's this?" "I'm calling on behalf of Miss Caitlin Clark. She'd like to meet you this morning at the Indiana Fever office. Are you free?" LaToya nearly dropped her phone. She glanced back at the diner where Darren watched through the window, scowling. I guess 1 a.m. now," she said, her pulse racing. "May I ask what this is about?" "Miss Clark will explain in person. Can you be here in 30 minutes?" LaToya thought of Jaden's dream, the stranger's tired eyes, Darren's disbelief. "Yes," she said firmly, "I'll be there." As she drove toward downtown Indianapolis, she wondered if this was another mistake, but deep down she felt this was different. The late customer hadn't just been a stranger they'd been watching her. The question was why. In the Fever's executive tower, Caitlin Clark reviewed LaToya's background with a satisfied nod. 6 years at the same diner, a side hustle to support her son, hours spent coaching kids at the rec center. Perfect. Send her up. When she arrived, she told her assistant Mia and called the foundation board. "I think we've got our person." LaToya sat in her beat-up Honda, staring up at the sleek Indiana Fever building, her knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. The morning's chaos felt surreal. Fired, then summoned here. Her phone buzzed with a text from her coworker, "Sasha girl, we tried to reason with Darren. He's stubborn. G to miss you." Tears stung her eyes. 6 years of friendships, regulars like old Mr. Evans who came for coffee every Monday, or little Kayla from the shelter who got extra fries, gone because she'd helped someone. She thought of Jaden, wondering how she'd break the news that camp might be off. "Pull it together," she muttered, wiping her face. "Jaden needs you strong." She checked her reflections, still in her diner uniform, neat despite the mess of the day. Her grandma always said, "Carry yourself with pride no matter what." The lobby gleamed with glass and steel, making LaToya feel small in her faded uniform. A security guard perked up as she approached. "I'm LaToya Harris. I'm here to see Miss Clark." His eyes widened slightly. He made a call, then handed her a badge. 35th floor. "Mia will meet you." The elevator ride stretched endlessly. LaToya's mind churned. Why her was Kay upset she'd played it cool last night? Mia, a polished woman with a warm smile, greeted her. "WR this way, Miss Harris." "Water, coffee." "Water, please," LaToya said, realizing she'd ski breakfast. Mia led her to a plush waiting area with a view of the city from here. Millie's looked like a speck tiny, just like she felt. "Miss Clark, we see you soon," Mia said, handing her a glass. "Make yourself at ease." At ease? LaToya nearly laughed. How in her life had just unraveled. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Jaden at the best practice coach. "Says I'm quick like a rabbit. Love you, Mom." LaToya swallowed hard, sipping water to steady yourself. Then the door opened. "Miss Harris," that familiar voice said. "Thanks for coming on short notice." LaToya turned to face Caitlin Clark. No hoodie now, just her towering presence and those same sharp, kind eyes. "I hope you don't mind. I didn't let on I knew you last night," LaToya said, finding her voice. "You seem like you wanted to keep it low-key." Caitlin smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted, and what you gave me, just a regular person needing a bite and a breather. But that's not why you're here. It's not." Caitlin sat across from her, Leaning and I've been scoping out Millie's for weeks. Watching you specifically, LaToya blinked confused me. Why I'm looking for someone special to lead a new youth program at my foundation, someone with heart, who does what's right even when it's risky, someone like you, me. LaToya's voice barely rose above a whisper. But I just got fired. I broke the rules. You showed kindness to a stranger, even though it could cost you. That wasn't the first time, was it? LaToya thought of the late-night stragglers she'd fed the extra fries for shelter. Kids, the time she'd stayed past closing for lonely regulars. No, she said quietly, it wasn't. That's why I'm offering you a job, Caitlin said. But first, why'd you help me last night? The truth. LaToya met her gaze. Because you looked worn out and hungry. Everyone deserves a little kindness, hoodie or not, didn't matter who you were. Caitlin's smile widened. That's what I hoped you'd say. LaToya's hands shook as she took the business card Caitlin handed her. Director of Community Outreach, it read, with a Clark Foundation logo. I don't get it, she said, looking up. I didn't go to college. I've never run anything big. I'm just a waitress. You're not just anything, Caitlin replied firmly. You're what this foundation needs. Someone who sees people, not titles. Someone who gets what it's like to hustle and still care. Mia entered with a thick folder employment package. Miss Clark. Caitlin handed it to LaToya. Details are inside: salary, benefits, duties. Take it home, read it, talk to JIBAN. LaToya opened it and gasped at the salary. Triple her diner and coffee shop earnings combined. This can't be real, she whispered. It is, Caitlin said, amused. Plus health coverage, a savings plan, and free access to all our youth basketball programs. JIBAN's face flashed in LaToya's mind. Not just camp, but real training, real chances. Why me? She asked again. Because last night wasn't random. I've been checking out spots around Indy, seeing how people act when they think no one big is watching. You didn't change a thing, no matter who I was. Caitlin leaned back. The board wanted someone with a master's in years in nonprofits. I told them I want someone real, someone who lives our mission every day without trying. LaToya thought of all the time she'd bent rules to help at the diner, how it lost her job, and now let her hear. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think it over, Caitlin said, standing. Take the weekend, job starts Monday if you're in. As Mia escorted her out, LaToya felt like she was floating. The folder felt heavy with promise. She was almost to her car when her phone rang. Darren's number. LaToya, he said, sounding off. You need to come back to Millie now. I don't work there anymore. You fired me. Yeah, well, things changed. Some suit from Clark's team showed up. They're talking about buying the diner chain, but they want you here first. LaToya glanced up at the Fever building, imagining a figure at the top window. I'm busy right now, she said, her voice steady. Maybe tomorrow. LaToya, they're serious, millions of dollars. They keep asking about you. What you do? She looked at the folder. I just fed someone hungry. That's all. Look, I'm sorry about this morning. Your job's here. If you want it, we can forget it happened. LaToya watched kids shoot hoops across the street, their laughter like Jaden's. Thanks, Darren, but I think I've got something else lined up. She hung up and flipped through the folder again. The role wasn't just about programs, it was about giving kids like Jaden a shot. Her phone buzzed. Jaden, can't wait to tell you about practice. You pick me up. She smiled, texting back, you bet, sweetie, wait till you hear my day. As she drove to Jaden's school, her mind buzzed with ideas: scholarships for gear leagues for single parent kids, all because she'd chosen kindness over rules. The afternoon sun glowed as LaToya pulled up to the school. Kids poured out, many with basketballs. Jaden stood out, the quickest boy in his group, weaving an invisible ball. Mom, he shouted, sprinting over. He stopped when he saw her uniform. Why aren't you at work? LaToya took a breath. We need to talk, sweetie, but first tell me about your day. As they drove, Jaden rambled about his speed drills and coach's praise. LaToya half listened, dreaming of the opportunities ahead. They stopped at their favorite park, settling on a bench by the court. Something happened today. She began pulling out the folder. It started last night at the diner. She told him everything: the late customer getting fired, Caitlin Clark's offer. Jaden's eyes grew huge. You mean Caitlin Clark, the shooter, and she wants you to work for her? Yep, it's a big change. I'd run programs to help kids play basketball, like camp, but more better than camp. Jaden bounced. LaToya showed him the program: picks, leagues, camps, training all year. If I take this, you could join them. But wait, Jaden's face fell. You lost your job because of her. Because I helped someone who needed it, LaToya said. I didn't know it was Caitlin then. I do it for anyone, like when you give extra fries to Kayla. LaToya blinked. You notice that I see you help people all the time, Mom. That's why Caitlin picked you, right? Maybe, she said, hugging him, but this job's huge. What if I mess up? Jaden mimicked her. You won't know till you try. LaToya laughed, wiping tears. When do you get so smart? Learn from you, he said, squeezing her back. They watched the Sunset Kids playing pickup across the court. Those could be your programs, Jaden Said you could help kids like Kayla's brother, he's fast but can't afford camp. Latoya's phone buzzed. Mia. Miss Clark asks if you've decided. Board meets tomorrow. Looking at Jaden, the kids, the community she'd served. Latoya knew her answer. Help me write this, sweetie. Together they typed, I'd be honored to join. Thank you for seeing me. Mia replied, fast welcome. Aboard 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring Jaden. Someone wants to meet him. Who's it going to be? Jaden asked, buzzing. No clue. Latoya grinned. But I think it's just the start. As they left, a breeze rustled the trees, same as last night when a stranger changed their lives. Mom, Jaden said as they drove off. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. Latoya replied, her heart full. We're in this together. What they didn't know was that Caitlin Clark was still at her desk, files stacked. Hi, other parents, other kids, other dreams. Waiting on top was a photo of Latoya helping at the wreck center last spring, smiling despite her fatigue. Next to it, a note from Kayla's mom about Latoya's support. Caitlin added her own. Sometimes the biggest dreams bloom when you're lifting others up. The next morning, Latoya fretted over her closet. Nothing felt right for a foundation director. Too worn, too casual. She settled on a gray blazer from her cousin's wedding. Simple but sharp. Mom, we're late. Jaden called, ready in his basketball gear. Coming, she said, giving herself a pep talk in the mirror. You've got this. They reached the Fever building early. The guard smiled, handing them badges. Good morning, Miss Harris. Mia said, on the 35th floor. And you're Jaden, we've heard about you. Is it true I'm meeting someone cool? Jaden asked. Very cool. Mia winked. But first, your mom's got a board meeting. Want to try our game room? We've got a hoop simulator. Jaden checked with Latoya. Okay, go have fun, she said, squeezing his hand. I'll get you after. Mia led her to a conference room where suits sat around a table. Caitlin at the head. Everyone meet Latoya Harris, our new director of community outreach, Caitlin said, gesturing to a seat. Latoya, meet the board. She noticed familiar faces among the suits. Kayla's mom, Mr. Evans, Jaden's coach. Tate, we've been watching you for months, Caitlin explained. Not just me, but our outreach team. We asked your regulars, your neighbors, the families you've helped. Mr. Evans spoke up. I told them how you chat with me every Monday, even when you're swamped, Kayla's mom added, and how you sneak food to my kids when we're short. Coach Tate nodded. She sweeps the gym after every practice, even when Jaden's not playing. Tears prick Latoya's eyes. I didn't think anyone noticed. That's why you're perfect, Caitlin said. You help when no one's looking. That's real. She slid over a contract salary we talked about, plus extras. College fund for Jaden. Insurance starts today. A bonus to settle in. Latoya stared at the numbers. Enough for a better place, a decent car, a future. Say yes, Mr. Evans urged, patting her hand. Then meet your new assistant coach. Caitlin grinned. While you're here, Jaden's getting tips from Subbird. Latoya's jaw dropped. The Subbird, who better to coach our first scholarship kid? Caitlin handed her a pen, signing. Latoya thought of every small kindness that brought her here. When do I start? You already had, Caitlin said. Your first task is downstairs watching Jaden train with a legend, she added softly. Growing up, someone gave my family a leg up when we needed it. You've been that for so many. Now it's your turn to be believed. In the elevator opened to Jaden, dribbling with S-Bird, his face alight. Latoya watched him nail a layup, thinking of all the kids whose dreams could soar. She couldn't wait to begin. 3 months raced by. Latoya settled into her role at the Clark Foundation, trading diner shifts for building dreams. Her office walls filled with thank you notes and photos of kids in new jerseys. Jaden thrived training with Sue Bird weekly, his speed dazzling. Coach Tate, he'd started teaching younger kids too. Like you taught me, Mom, he said. Everyone gets a shot today. Latoya reviewed scholarship applications. 15 spots, 150 kids, single moms like her, families hit by layoffs, kids, and 2 big sneakers. How do I pick? She murmured, papers fanning across her desk. An email pinged, urgent financial audit. Her hands shook as she opened it. Numbers didn't match. Thousands moved oddly between accounts. This can't be right, she whispered, checking spreadsheets. But there was money shifting, no clear trail. She thought of Jaden, the kids in new shoes, Kayla's brother reporting it was right. But what if it tanked everything? She dialed Caitlin. Miss Clark, we need to talk. It's the finances. Come up, Caitlin said, calm as ever. In her office, Caitlin studied the same files. Sir, I found discrepancies. Latoya began steady despite her nerves. Money moving without records. I had to tell you, even if it risks everything. Jaden's training the kids. They deserve better than shady books. Caitlin's face stayed blank, then broke into a grin. Exactly what I wanted to hear. I don't get it. No missing funds, Latoya. It was a test. Your last one, we tweaked the numbers to see if you'd speak up, even if it cost you. Relief hit her heart. A test. Integrity matters as much as impact. Caitlin said, you proved you've got both. She pulled out a new contract. How You like to be executive director, Latoya froze, but the current one retiring. We've been prepping you all along. Your heart, your hustle, your honesty. Through the window, JIBAN coached a little girl on dribbling. I'd be honored, Latoya said, but one thing, can we help every kid, even if it's smaller scholarships? Caitlin's grin grew. That's why you're the one. That night at the park, Latoya watched JIBAN with foundation kids. Her new contract sat signed in her bag, executive director. A text from Sasha popped up. Millie got bought, turning into youth centers with courts. Heard you're behind it. Latoya smiled. Caitlin wasn't just changing her life, but the whole city. Mom ice cream, JIBAN asked, sweaty kids in tow. Their hopeful faces has won her over. As they walked to the shop, Kayla's brother Tim asked, Miss Latoya, why help so many kids? Now don't you miss the diner? I miss the little help, she said, but now I help bigger, like making Millie's a basketball spot. My dad says you're like a superhero. Tim grinned, ice cream on his chin. Later at home, Latoya pored over reports. Something nagged, donations logged for future dates. Digging deeper, she saw it pledged funds counted early, inflating the balance. Mom, JIBAN yawned from the doorway. It's late, you said. Sleeps? You're right, she said, pulling him close. I think I found a real problem this time. Then you'll fix it. He hugged her. That's you. Next morning, she faced the board, report in hand. We're counting money. We don't have, she said, voice firm. It looks good now, but it's not real. I'd rather lose this job than let kids down with lies. Silence hung. Then Caitlin laughed. You're unreal, Latoya. This wasn't a test, it's real. You passed anyway. What? Caitlin pointed out the window at kids arriving. See that boy in green, Darren's son. When we bought Millie's, we learned he was strict to save for his kids' camp. Latoya watched the boy sink a jumper. I didn't know. No one knows every story, Caitlin said. That's why we need you. You dig deeper. She turned the irregularities real, not theft. Desperation. Our accountant stretched funds to help more kids, like you did with fries. So when I reported it, you showed doing right beats good intentions. Caitlin smiled. Board meetings, real purpose going. National youth centers in every city, starting with Millie's. You're leading it. A new contract slid over. Latoya looked at JIBAN's text from earlier. May the regional team on one condition, she said. Darren manages our first center. His son gets a scholarship. Already done, Caitlin said. Second chances run in the family. 6 months later, Toya stood at the first Millie's Youth Center opening. The old sign hung inside, but the lot was a cord. Caitlin said, you proved you've got both. She pulled out a new contract. How? You like to be executive director, Latoya froze, but the current one retiring. We've been prepping you all along. Your heart, your hustle, your honesty. Through the window, JIBAN coached a little girl on dribbling. I'd be honored, Latoya said, but one thing, can we help every kid, even if it's smaller scholarships? Caitlin's grin grew. That's why you're the one. That night at the park, Latoya watched JIBAN with foundation kids. Her new contract sat signed in her bag, executive director. A text from Sasha popped up. Millie got bought, turning into youth centers with courts. Heard you're behind it. Latoya smiled. Caitlin wasn't just changing her life, but the whole city. Mom ice cream, JIBAN asked, sweaty kids in tow. Their hopeful faces has won her over. As they walked to the shop, Kayla's brother Tim asked, Miss Latoya, why help so many kids? Now don't you miss the diner? I miss the little help, she said, but now I help bigger, like making Millie's a basketball spot. My dad says you're like a superhero. Tim grinned, ice cream on his chin. Later at home, Latoya pored over reports. Something nagged, donations logged for future dates. Digging deeper, she saw it pledged funds counted early, inflating the balance. Mom, JIBAN yawned from the doorway. It's late, you said. Sleeps? You're right, she said, pulling him close. I think I found a real problem this time. Then you'll fix it. He hugged her. That's you. Next morning, she faced the board, report in hand. We're counting money. We don't have, she said, voice firm. It looks good now, but it's not real. I'd rather lose this job than let kids down with lies. Silence hung. Then Caitlin laughed. You're unreal, Latoya. This wasn't a test, it's real. You passed anyway. What? Caitlin pointed out the window at kids arriving. See that boy in green, Darren's son. When we bought Millie's, we learned he was strict to save for his kids' camp. Latoya watched the boy sink a jumper. I didn't know. No one knows every story, Caitlin said. That's why we need you. You dig deeper. She turned the irregularities real, not theft. Desperation. Our accountant stretched funds to help more kids, like you did with fries. So when I reported it, you showed doing right beats good intentions. Caitlin smiled. Board meetings, real purpose going. National youth centers in every city, starting with Millie's. You're leading it. A new contract slid over. Latoya looked at JIBAN's text from earlier. May the regional team on one condition, she said. Darren manages our first center. His son gets a scholarship. Already done, Caitlin said. Second chances run in the family. 6 months later, Toya stood at the first Millie's Youth Center opening. The old sign hung inside, but the lot was a court. Like this video and subscribe this channel. Thank you.